horse sport, with, of course, you know, going back to the history of Will Rogers, bringing trick roping to the masses, but the rodeo, the Fort Worth Stock Show that has had its home here for so many years, now moved across with the main rodeos to the Dickies, but there's still so much part of that nearly month-long stock show extravaganza that comes into this Coliseum, and it's wonderful now to bring another partnership with the horse, with Olympic-level show jumping here to a venue quite like this, and an audience quite like this. The Saturday night audience here in Fort Worth last year was beyond compare. Truly horse people, they really understood what was trying to go on, even without knowing the nitty-gritty details of show jumping. They really understood and got behind and were enthused about the sport, and it was really, you know, it was a great thing to be involved with, and, you know, having just run one time the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Qualifier. This venue, this team was selected then to host the 2026 edition of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Finals. It'll also be held alongside, as it has been traditionally for the last decade or so, the FEI Dressage World Cup Finals. Well, as you can see, of course, the traditional prelude to a major class here in America underway now with the build-up to the performance of the national anthem here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Well, following an incredible tradition and an incredible performance for tonight's Lugano Diamonds Meter 50 FEI welcome here that will set the scene for our big class, the $250,000 Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Qualifier here on Saturday in Fort Worth. We're a while away, of course, from deciding and knowing who is going to be our winner tonight, following in the footsteps of Hunter Holloway, winner here last year of this very class, following in the footsteps of Erin Ballard, our first international winner of the week here with us last night. California-based Puerto Rican rider Mark Watring is our first to go. Limbasini is his ride. The two-time Olympian, was the individual Pan American Games champion back in 2003 in the Dominican Republic. And he is following that qualification pathway to Paris. He's trying to get there to ride at his third Olympic Games. It would be his second as a jumper. After Athens, he rode at the Los Angeles Olympics in '84 as an eventer. Relatively tough approach to the first. You can see that Mark's just got to send his horse down into the corner, then a pretty short turn back up to the first. And Anderson puts them down a bending line to the Vitalize. And that's interesting. Mark finds that he has to jump a little bit across the Lugano, so that's going to make it that he's got to really ride and adjust for the distance down to the Longines watch face. And that's just the nature of that curved end of the ring. Again, another short turn at the top of the ring. So whilst you might look at the track and say, it looks relatively simple, pulls a rail there, unfortunately coming out of the double. It looks relatively technically simple. The arena helps just add a little bit of spice to the test set by Anderson for this first jump-off class of the week. Triple combination coming late on in the track. It's these dark split rock rails as well. So once again, he's put that very, very solid split rock filler right down almost on the ground. And sometimes that just little crack of light makes all the difference to these horses. And that's where Mark has had his second rail on course. 72 seconds the time allowed, and just misjudges the last, unfortunately.
Well, he does make it through the finish line.
So it'll be counted as 4 faults there at the last. It's 12 overall for Mark Watring and Limbasini as our very, very first to go. But a rider of the caliber of Mark Watring showing, you know, a 3-down round, a 12-fault round, just shows that, you know, we are not going to be giving away the prize money, the valuable Longines World Ranking points too easily here tonight. You're going to have to fight for your place in the jump-off. You're going to have to fight for the win here tonight.
Now this is an interesting combination that goes next, because it's a horse that this man has been riding only for the past 5 months or so. It's 11 years old.
Al-Walid Dawood with RSH Grand Dessert goes second for us. This is a rider who represents Iraq, a career winner on the World Cup circuit out in Jordan in the Middle Eastern circuit. Al-Walid, the busy rider back in the day, jumped up to 5-star level at the UAE's Nations Cup show, jumped the Lanarken World Young Horse Championships, but then had several years away from the international level of the sport. But coming back to the fore here in North America with this horse, jumping through some of the Great Lakes shows up in Michigan this summer. This horse formerly campaigned here in America by Lauren Crooks. And another rider, when you just look at the final approach to the Lugano, it's not, you know, plumb dead center, being able to come off of a nice final straight stride. Still everything standing at the moment. And here again, you get that idea of having to turn off the curved rail, quite a short approach to the plank, sitting there quite delicate on the ESI rails. And yeah, he got in deep underneath the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup fence. RSH Grand Dessert did a great job to be very, very quick and neat in front. Just a little bit of a drift to the right there, and again, that could have been just conscious decision by Al-Walid to create the space he needed for this horse. They've just been competing together about 5 months internationally, so just building up that experience. But, you know, going back to yesterday, we saw this combination go, and they didn't just seem like they quite had that bond. They've obviously looked a little bit at the work that goes into the horse earlier in the day, just settled, maybe done a little bit more ring familiarization. They're really together tonight. We saw them exceed the time. They leave all the fences standing, but they just go that little bit slow, and that will make the difference. It'll give them a couple of faults, but a very, very good day at the office, I would say, for Al-Walid Dawood, and it proves that the course can be jumped, but of course the test is to jump it at the required pace and therefore be inside that time allowed. Well, a man who could very definitely do that as we go to US Olympian Will Simpson. Will with his own Chaco P by Chaco Blue. Will has ridden for the US team 4 times at the World Cup finals of our sport. Rode at the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky, that leg of the Winter World Cup Series. And the fact that he's here doesn't necessarily mean that Will is chasing a spot at a 5th finals this spring in Omaha. It won't be ultimate victory tonight, with the first 2 already down for Will and Checo P. Will, who's part of the US team at the 2008 Olympic Games, just takes the back rail here again. This is a little bit how Al Walid's horse went last night. It's just not really settling. You see, just constantly throwing the head of a rider of the caliber of Will. He'll really go back. He'll watch the video this round. He'll concentrate. He'll try and isolate what he could do differently in future to just let this horse come in more comfortable, more settled, and able to just deliver the quality rounds that we see so often from Will, who's a tremendous supporter of the Split Rock Jumping Tour, coast to coast here in the United States. Pops out over the last 16 jumping faults with the 4 down for Will Simpson. So it's actually the 5 time penalties for Al Walid Dawood and RSH Grand Desert that leads the way so far while we wait our first clear round.
Represented the USA in 6 FEI World.
Ken Farrington, one of our top-ranked riders at the horse show this year. It's great to have some of these big guns of the sport coming to Fort Worth, and again, they know that those finals being here in 2026, they want to come and see the town, see the facilities. A lot of the riders took the opportunity to have a tour of the Dickies Arena here, which will be the venue for those finals. The state-of-the-art, less than 5 years old. Some would disagree, as it is the replacement for this Coliseum, because this place has so much history, but an incredible venue, and it will be an incredible finals. Kent, very little he hasn't done in the sport, and he's had a good run through the Winter World Cup season, for instance, this year with this horse Landon. Top 10 at Washington, top 10 up in Toronto at the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. Probably one of the most successful individual athletes when you look at his strike rate in the sport, but has done the business so often for the US team as well. Just has this horse going so comfortably. It looks, effortlessly in comparison. As long as this horse just listens to Kent all the way around, you'd feel like the way they're going as a partnership, a clear is very, very much on the cards. Just pointing to the caliber of the rider and then the caliber of the pairing. There we are, but over the time, 72.52 on the clock for Ken Farrington and Landon, so it will be 1 for time. Clear jumping 1 for time for US Olympian Ken Farrington and Landon. Simone Berger out of Santa Rosa, California is our next to go. Simone, who's the winner with us on the Split Rock Jumping Tour of the Grand Prix in California last season. Having a good World Cup this year. 6th already at Sacramento, top 10 at Vegas. This is her 3rd opportunity to compete west of the Mississippi on the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup circuit this year. And she takes it with relish. You're sitting on 19 points so far, a few more points here this weekend, and she could be looking at a first World Cup finals appearance. What an interesting competition already. Like when you see Landon and Kent Farrington end up with that single time fault, half a second over the time. You know, they did look, you know, like they were very steadily cruising, but, you know, if you ever thought that there was a rider with a clock in his head, especially given the number of incredible Grand Prix jump-offs that he has won, very, very surprising that Kent would just exceed the time that way. You know, we've had Al Walid from Iraq go around steady clear, picking up the 5 time faults. And Simona Berg, Simona is going to go into a good placing at this very, very early stage if she can hold it to just the 1 down, 4 faults. Watching the time though, looks like it might come into play for her too. Yeah, actually 2, 1 full and 1 further partial second over, so that is going to be 2 for time. Simona Berg and Cooper 4 jumping 2 time. Our first rider out of Texas, from Midland here in Texas, Olivia Cliver, rides Connor. Saw Olivia at a couple of our split rock jumping tour shows here in the USA this year. Olivia is actually a, just like Mark Watching, who was our first to go, a former eventer, evented to the international advanced level of that discipline. So quite interesting there, they come up. They're probably a little bit too much through the left shoulder up that line. They ended up just an inch or 2 off the Vitalize, costing them the front rail, very nearly taking the front rail off the Longines with the water tray under it here at the end of this first long line as well. Hangs a little bit going away from the in-gate over the green and white, and yeah, again, maybe that loss of impetus over the green meant they didn't just quite have the spot to get out over the back rail of the October Hill. So they're on 2 down. The 1 time fault for Kent Farrington will still lead. It's a tough approach, actually. The triple combination in the World Cup qualifier was on a very similar line last year, and the horses just have to be really encouraged to focus in on the fences, and just again a misjudgment here. So having disturbed the fence, the judges have stopped the clock. Our ring crew here under Hector Beltran to get that reset just as quickly as possible to allow Olivia to complete her round. Funny again, you know, just jumping indoors, jumping on the lights, jumping with that, you know, bit of atmosphere, that bit of edge. Everything tots up. You know, it wasn't a course that I think anyone was thinking was going to be a heartbreaking night. And yet, you know, here we are. We've seen some pretty good combinations already, some combinations that have consistently jumped well. They're just ending up not able to deliver that quite clear round. 2 jumping clears, with Al Walid Dawood for Iraq jumping clear with 5 for time, and Kent Farrington jumping clear with 1 for time. Quite a big score for Olivia, of course, with the time penalties coming into play as well, unfortunately. So we'll be Taylor and Charlie of the leaderboard as things currently stand. Luis Sabino Gonçalves, returning rider to us here at Fort Worth. We were delighted to welcome him here to Fort Worth last year. An absolutely lovely rider to have in the sport and at your show. He ended up actually 4th in this class 12 months ago. Lewis, who's been a championship medalist for Portugal, jumped to the World Championships for them. Rides Bemol de Champ. And this combination were 5th in yesterday's 2 phase as well, so they settled well into the ring last night. Will that carry through tonight? And of course, against the clock in the 2 phase to be top 5. So hopefully they've got the ability to just give that little bit of turn of speed and deliver our first 0 inside the time. Interesting, we had Mark Watring, just the back rail off that. Mark Watring, who was our first to go, he was just inside the time, just a little bit under half a second. But Will Simpson and Chaco P went around in just over 68 seconds. So very much possible to get inside the time. Let's see if Luis Sabino Gonçalves is going to do it and come home on just 4 faults. 4 faults at the moment inside the time will be worth second place honours at this stage. 70.77 for Luis Sabino Gonçalves. So I think that, coupled with Will Simpson, is going to start to make the riders go, it'll take the edge off their thinking about the time. They'll go, all right, just looking at the strides that Lewis rode, looking at the strides that Will Simpson rode, what can I do? How can I replicate that with my horse? How can I adjust my plan to deliver the time and stop making the time something I have to worry about, and let me then really focus 100% on these lines, these strides, these jumps, these relationships between the jumps, and try and get the all-important clear. So Luis Francisco de Azevedo, HFG Quaman by Diamantesemi. Luis already top 10 in the World Cup this year in Lexington, Kentucky at the National Horse Show. Represented Brazil in Nations Cup team jumping action at Le Ball, the big 5-star Nations Cup show in France at the beginning of the year. Go back, I was mentioning last night, it was 2012 when Luis rode in his World Cup finals. That was one of the years it was held at 's-Hertogenbosch in the Netherlands. And Luis here, you know, he is on the front foot time-wise. He's really just leaning into this course and letting the horse, he's doing a good job of getting the horse to the jumps in good shape, and then the horse is doing a cracking job of jumping them when he gets there. Ooh, just curls over that final rail coming out of the triple combination. Time is incredibly fast. He has a lot of time here to just balance and make sure of the last, and there we go. Worth waiting for that first clear of the competition. Luis Francisco de Azevedo for Brazil. We've had several Brazilian winners of the Split Rock Jumping Tour Grand Prix. And of course, when you think of Brazil in terms of the World Cup, it's difficult to look beyond Rodrigo Pessoa, one of those rare 3-time winners of the World Cup Finals Championship competition. And Rodrigo, another rider who's with us here tonight at Fort Worth. But it's Mexico that takes our attention now as we look for a second clear round to guarantee us a jump-off finale. Arturo Parado Vallejo won't join the jump-off, and he is not the first to have that Dalman Jump Company down at number 1. It closes the door on jump-off participation and therefore a top result here. And as we were saying, much more so in the two-phase format that we had last night, but you know, straight away Arturo will click through in his mind the various scenarios at play, the various things then he wants to do with this horse, achieve with this horse in the remainder of the round of jumping here tonight to get the most out of this competition opportunity, thinking about then trying to be as close to or at the top of the table in Saturday night's Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier. Arturo, he had 3 horses in the two-phase last night. They all jumped well, and they all jumped fast. Yeah, it was just easy to see he wasn't in a great spot coming in over the A element. The horse was very brave to jump in, but then there was no way that they could jump from the spot they found themselves in the remaining parts of the triple combination. Let's say Arturo ended up with his horse that jumped clean last night, top 5 in the two-phase with Bacot. So he doesn't want to carry on. And again, you know, Arturo's just going to, you know, think about that, analyze it, come up with a plan. Probably do a little bit of schooling with the horse, just sweeten the horse back up, you know, remind the horse how much it enjoys jumping, to make sure that, you know, it doesn't go out on, you know, a poor experience. So the winning combination from last night, Aaron Ballard and Narcotique van het Dinkenshoff. Aaron was also third. Aaron was on her first ride that ended up third. Gakir, incredibly smooth. And sometimes smooth equals fast. And then Daniel Coyle went that margin faster. And then she had this second chance with Narcotique, and she was leaving nothing down. Then she looked like she was trying, and she was able to take the victory in the first FEI class of the week. And sometimes, you know, those bounces, those purple patches, that you just get into one and you stay in the groove. And once you start winning, you believe you can keep winning. And because of that belief, you do. Erin here in Narcotique, she knows she's got a fast horse. Again, when she started to see, I'm sure, a couple get the time and get the time quite easily, sitting on Narcotique. Her two horses reversed tonight in the drawn order, interestingly, as well. Erin, you know, will then feel very, very confident about the 72 seconds time allowed. And look at this. This is going to be an incredibly fast clear round, but it is clear, and that's the important thing. Aaron Ballard is clear round number 2, and we definitely have a jump off in our hands.
Certainly is. We're in for a great jump off when we get there because she's pleased with that round as well.
So, good news so far for the Americas, with Brazil and Canada making up the starting field of the jump off. We want to get one in there for the United States of America. And Eilish Cuniff might well be able to do that. She's been a great servant to the US team this year in Nations Cup action, jumping at the 2 important meetings in Mexico at Jalapa and at Canada at Thunderbird in British Columbia. And Eilish rides Vivaldi de Teal, this Caprice Bois Margaux horse with which Eilish was podium finishing here last year, 3rd place here, and all-important World Cup points here 12 months ago in Fort Worth. So returning to us in order to capitalize again on that success. You know, you start to develop favorites in shows where you've been successful before, where everything's just gone right for you. Those are the shows that are when you have a choice in the weekend, or it's decide which week you're going to show, so that you manage your horse's career across the entire season. They become the favorites. They start to become the landmarks in your program. It's not long ago that Eilish was riding alongside the likes of Brian Mowgray at the Youth Nations Cup finals for the United States of America. And, as I say, stepped up now to wear the team coat. Those major 5-star Nations Cups here in the Americas. So just a shame there with Vivaldi de Teal and Eilish having the middle part of the triple combination down, so they won't join the jump off. They'll be pleased to have jumped this track so well, though, compared to the several other good combinations. Eilish and Vivaldi set up for Saturday night. We'll see whether they're going to be able to match or improve on their top 3 finish in the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier. But tonight, on their 4 faults, now that we've got a couple of 4 faulters, now that we have a jump off in our hands, we start to separate those who do have faults based according to time. So Eilish becomes our fastest 4-faulter, 65.90, goes into 4th place, pushing Luis Sabino's 4 faults in a slightly slower time down the ranking. Out of California, out of Palo Alto, Natalie Dean. Natalie with a Kyoto, top 5 and a podium result already this year in the Winter World Cup Series. She's actually 4th on the standings, the highest ranked West Coast rider on the North American League at the moment. Natalie, who's also ranked inside the world's top 100 on the Longines FEI World Rider rankings. Could be on for clear round number 3 here. Say already at this stage, you're starting to get to the point where we've seen faults at nearly every jump. We have at the Jarvis, we have at the last. Natalie, 72 seconds is no problem at all. Here she is. She is a fast clear round, and that is the first through to the jump off for the United States of America. Natalie Dean and a Cotter will join the party. They'll come back for the short course. So coming here with a couple of horses as well. It's great to welcome him here for the first time. The winner this year of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Qualifier in Toronto, Ireland's Daniel Coyle. Daniel with his own and Ariel Granger's Ivory TCS. It was with Ivory that Daniel was on the podium last night, finishing second in the 2 phase. He rides a very, very sensible approach there. You know, we isolated straight away. You got a tough approach. Mark Watring came around there very, very positive, very forward, and found then that, you know, he's bringing his horse off his line, running a little bit at the first. Daniel and Ivory, unfortunately, at the end of the line have had the vitalized down, but, you know, just interesting to see a rider of Daniel's caliber analyze that question on the course. It's interesting that there is such a question to be answered in the way you just ride past the in-gate turn and approach the first. Of course, those are so lucky enough to listen and hear from top coaches in the world will say that, you know, a lot of rounds can be won and lost in the way you approach the first fence of them. So again, a horse that found the jumping so easy last night was able to do it at such speed as well. They look very, very comfortable in themselves. They haven't looked uncomfortable in themselves tonight, but they've just laid a toe on 2 rails, especially that light plank up at the ESI. So coming home at 8 faults and just a shade drifting towards 72. Yeah, I thought he was going to be just maybe outside, and I didn't think Daniel was necessarily going to be too upset if he had been with Ivory, because it became more about, again, squaring up the jumping, coming out with the horse, making that good shape over the jump, and thinking about Saturday night. So 4 faults, it'll be one of the, 8 faults with the 2 down there for Daniel Coyle. Another rider out of California, Caitlin Campbell. Caitlin, who was actually a class winner with us here at Fort Worth last year and jumped the World Cup qualifier as well. This year, top 10 at Vegas and picked up a few points also at one of the early shows at Sacramento on the Winter World Cup here on the North American League. Yeah, just maybe a little bit too forward, a little bit too positive down there. They ended up finding the Longines came up a bit quick for them. Same thing really up to the October Hill, and they're just coming up out of that kind of pace. The horse is just finding it doesn't have enough time and space to really get its front end up and out of the way of the pole. So you see them have that top rail off the vertical, front rail off the Liverpool. Let's see what happens to them here in the triple combination. They came in on a slightly more controlled approach. And a horse's natural tendency to obviously just run a little bit at Caitlin's hand means that they did lengthen out. They sped up, lowered and lengthened over the course of that triple combination and had the last part down as well. So Caitlin elects to retire with Paulina de Lescu. So just, you know, keeping their powder dry a little bit again. Just finding, I think Caitlin would tell you herself that, you know, she just needs to do something about her horse's tendency to just run a little bit through her hands. And again, that's something that she'll chat with her trainer, she'll work it through. So Mexican Olympian Nicolas Pizarro. Nick, who's a very prolific rider, won some prestigious Grand Prix at the likes of Spruce Meadows. He's been on the Major League Series here in North America. Represented Mexico at the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup Finals, the big team jumping major every year in Barcelona. Nick riding Pia Contra, and this is a returning combination. They were top 5 with us in the World Cup 12 months ago here in Fort Worth. Again, you don't want to jinx it, but this just looks so within this pair's capability. I think it would be, you know, the merest bad luck that would see this pair pull a rail the way they're going at the moment. You know, you get that sense of, you know, just being a little bit all-conquering, sweeping the world before you. And sometimes it does feel like that. It feels like you can't put a foot wrong, and that's what it looks like, what it surely must feel like for Nick Pizarro there tonight. Nick Pizarro for Mexico is going to be clear round number 4, shaping up to be a decent-sized and well-formed jump-off here as well. Brazil, Canada, USA, Mexico. So far closing the door on any European visitors to the jump-off tonight in the Lugano Diamonds FEI welcome here at the Split Rock Fort Worth. We'll see if that continues to be the case. A rider down from Colorado now. This is JJ Atkinson. Jumped at the Split Rock show that was held at the Colorado Horse Park last year. Rider who we've seen up at the 5-star meter 60 level of the sport, jumping at that level up in Spruce Meadows in Calgary. JJ with this Haval horse by the VDL sire Zaval. We've seen some good ones by that over the years, and you know, it just starts to make you think, doesn't it? You know, how many problems we've had on the first line, and it's, you know, it's a little bit of a balance. We've spoken several times already about that approach to number 1. We've spoken, of course, about the fact that it is that curving line, and it's so easy for the horse to come in through the left shoulder, hug 9A, and find themselves a little bit out of spot for the Vitalize. But what's interesting when you take away from the specifics and look at the more generalities, we've got a tough first 2 fences on this course, and that goes back to, you know, this is 4-star level. The whole North American League was rejigged a couple of years ago to set every show at a minimum of 4-star. So it's not just about, you know, whether the fences are meter 50 in the welcome, meter 60 in the World Cup qualifier, which they will be, but that 4-star level of technicality, and a 4-star is a 4-star is a 4-star. If you take the field of horses and riders, and they were jumping a 4-star in Europe, in the Middle East, on the Japan League of World Cup jumping, the technical specification will be the same. That relationship between the jumps, the difficulty of the track, the questions that need to be answered. And it's very, very clear, therefore, that, you know, we've got a true 4-star track here tonight, and these riders need to come in and they need to be ready to answer it. So JJ with the 12 jumping faults there on the round, but lovely to see her just here in live. You're watching the replays, but just in front of my booth, leaned forward, patted, thanked, congratulated her horse. Lovely to see, and you know, of course, JJ will be looking forward then to riding World Cup with us on that horse, Haval, on Saturday night. So first of 2 for Aaron Vale as we go on. Say Aaron is another one of the riders who we see time and time again on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. Aaron who settles into residency at a couple of places as well. We've seen him do it at Trine. We've seen him do it at the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida. As he sort of settles into residency and he just becomes a winning machine. Again, a little bit like that sort of purple patch we were talking about when Erin Ballard came in and jumped so well earlier on, just unlucky to miss out. Sorry, she didn't even miss out. Her and Narcotique sailed around to give us clear round number 2. Yeah, I think, you know, belief that you can keep winning, having started to win, is as important as almost anything else. A lot of high-level professional sport, as we all know, is the mind game, the mental game. Aaron traditionally a nippy rider as well. He's fast. Again, you feel like the time allowed of 72 has stopped being an issue at this stage. Aaron, a two-time winner of the Washington leg of the World Cup Series, winning that prestigious President's Cup. And elusive, he isn't giving each of these fences meters of space. He's very, very economic, but he is clear, he's clean, he's got a lovely technique, this horse. And Aaron and Elusive are clear, and that gives the United States of America another contender. Second rider for the USA following Natalie Dean. And they come back in the order in which they qualify as well. So a fast rider like Aaron, and he's still also got another horse to come, but he's already in maybe quite a good spot to really try and take a good position, a good final spot in this Lugano Diamonds FEI welcome. So Kansas's Hunter Holloway. Pepita Conchpita is our next to go hunter. She won this class, the welcome, last year with this horse Pepita. Won a big five-star Grand Prix in upstate New York at Saugerties this year. And Hunter won't join our jump off tonight, but she is looking forward to Saturday night because she's currently 6th on our North American League World Cup standings, having been on the podium in Lexington and top 10 in Las Vegas. So a decent amount of points, 10 or more points here at Fort Worth this weekend could pretty much nail down her ticket to the Omaha World Cup Finals next spring. Pepita just being a little bit mouthy for her coming around to the ESI fence, but they know each other so well, this pair. Hunter was just able to soften the hands and make sure that Pepita then just got a look at that top rail and got the right spot to clear the ESI plank. I've only seen her think it come down once or twice so far. It hasn't been the bogey that it might have been sitting there on its incredibly flat cups, but it's been influential enough. Hunter bringing home the 8 faults, and as I say, you know, we're starting now to really not be concentrating on that time of 72 seconds at all. Hunter is comfortably inside with Pepita, of course, very experienced 5-star horse, the level above this as well, so they should find jumping a track of this technicality within the speed required well within their capabilities, and they've proven that, as have the other horses with similar sort of experience. So the German flag, of course, by his name, but he strongly represents Texas. He's based just outside Fort Worth, and together with his wife, Erin Davis Heineking, have been instrumental in this Fort Worth International. And then partnered with the Split Rock team, made a bid to join the North American League, which they were successful in, running their first World Cup here last year, and then at the spring meeting of the International Equestrian Federation, their bid for the 2026 World Cup Finals was accepted, and Christian and Aaron instrumental in making sure that that bid stood up to scrutiny so that we have the exciting opportunity to welcome those finals here to Fort Worth in a couple of years. Christian, no stranger to the finals himself. He rode at Omaha before. He has a great record at Omaha as well, because he's been several times the Grand Prix winner there in the shows they ran in the build-up to those 2017 finals. Carrying 8 faults as he comes around to sort of the final line, right in front of the lower tier of stands, and coming away to jump this last, just going past the in-gate. The in-gate should never be discounted as an influence on the horses. The horses are such herd animals. They know where they're trying to head. They know where their friends are. So one of that rare breed of riders who have been twice winners of Grand Prix on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. Only, I think, 4 riders have won multiple legs. Santiago Lambre, Santiago, an Olympian, previously for Mexico. He's now back in the colors of Brazil. Done it all, ridden at the World Championships, ridden at the Pan American Games. This horse is Comtesse by Comme il faut. See that momentary disagreement. Comtesse's eyes were over to the left. And of course, Santiago on board is talking about coming over the Liverpool, knew that the next thing they were doing was going right. He was just saying, all right, let's get this jumped, and then you can start listening to me about direction. We need to go this way. Yeah, just when you're down in the ring earlier on, you think that, you know, actually he's been a little bit easy perhaps with the line, the turn back from 8 to 9 ABC, the triple combination, but you've actually got to make quite a short turn. It's almost a jump-off turn to sneak inside the last, and you certainly need to be doing that in order to try and catch the time. Santiago unlucky there to have one down close to home. The Jarvis Insurance with those skinny rails and not as long as the other rails on course, and therefore, when you do the logic, they're lighter, and therefore they'll fall a little bit easier under less pressure from the horse. And again, all those little things, all those little tricks at Anderson's control, and then for the riders to understand and answer. So Savannah Hemby, say from the eastern side of the Metroplex out of Dallas, Texas. Savannah's first year riding at FEI level. She'll unfortunately take the top rail off the Dalman Jump Company. Now the Dalman won't stand the full meter 50 being the first fence on course, but it is on the yellow cups, the shallower cups. Again, those yellow cups, front of all the oxes, top of all the verticals, they help just increase that level of difficulty, bringing it up to that 4-star standard. Yeah, I've slightly maligned Savannah when we were looking at the start list. I knew I had Lexington, Kentucky in my mind for Savannah. That was because we saw this pair jumping a couple of times at the Kentucky Horse Park and Split Rock shows over the course of this summer. As I say, a proud Texan jumping here at Texas's World Cup show. So for sure, as she comes home, more faults than she was hoping for, 3 down, but she can take away the fact that she just manages that. She gets around inside the time, and that is its own fence that you clear. It's its own obstacle set by the course designer. So there's a couple down as Savannah Hemby brings us up to halfway through, and so far it is 5 qualified for the jump off here in Fort Worth in the Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. It's a $75,000 class tonight, and valuable Longines FEI World Ranking points on offer as well. So we're going to just have a ground maintenance break here before we see the second half of the draw and know exactly how many we have coming back for that jump up. But so far it's 5. Luis Francisco de Azevedo, Aaron Ballard, Natalie Dean, Nick Pizarro and Aaron Vale, making it 2 for the USA so far. Unfortunately, we won't see Ken Farrington and Landon back as they were caught out early on by the time. And then these 4 faulters. Look at some of those times. Eilish Cunniffe, Santiago Lambre, so fast on the 4 faults. Al-Walid, he didn't have a rail. He had 5 for time. He was actually our first to jump all the fences clear for Iraq, that career World Cup winner out in Jordan in the Middle East. And then, you know, we didn't have that many big scores last night in the 2-phase. We go up to meter 50 tonight. We're starting to see slightly bigger scores than the riders would necessarily have preferred, you know, 12s and 16s all coming into play there, and we'll see whether that continues to play out in the second half, because sometimes you do really genuinely have a game of 2 halves in some of these competitions. It's going to be a little bit under 10 minutes when we rejoin you and bring you the second half of the initial round of jumping of this $75,000 Lugano Diamonds meter 50 FEI Welcome jump-off format. Do stay with us. So welcome back. We are about to get back underway here with the initial round of jumping in the Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. We're going to start with 2 for Australia. James Arkin and Rowan Willis, as you've just seen there. You know, we've got the likes of Rodrigo Pessoa coming. We've got Aaron Ballard with a second ride. Aaron already with 1 through to the jump off. We're going to see for the first time this week McLean Ward. We're going to see Brian Mowgray riding for the first time this week as well. Both of them sat out last night's class. And we'll see how many more can join the 5 currently qualified for the jump off. Well, a rider who has come up here to North America to jump this year, and he's really made his mark. He was on the Australian Nations Cup team and jumped double clear on that team at Thunderbird in British Columbia in May of this year, and then went on to the Herning World Championships representing Australia. Having come up here from his home base in New South Wales, James Arkins, James with Eurostar by Diorado. So James answers the first 2 questions, and they are genuine questions. We were talking a little bit in the first half about just what a tough first line we have. And, you know, when I was speaking a little bit about the course earlier on, what I found quite interesting is the way that Anderson Lima, the course designer from Mexico, set that sort of curving line. It's quite a long line as well, 1 to 2, and then he set the opposite way, a left-hand line, a little bit shorter, a little bit tighter here coming up 7 to 8. So the ESI plank, it's a full 1.50 m plank here coming off, again, a similar short turn out of the corner, and then across the ring here to a very, very chunky oxer. Again, your first instinct when walking this course was to think that, you know, it was a good bit of time and space turning back from number 8 to the start of the triple combination, but actually you've got to turn very sharp. You've got to turn like a jump off, as I was saying before the break. James Arkins there has 1 down in the triple combination. That's all we have against him. It's 4 faults, so ranked based on that faults and time. We have 5 clears. We've got Ken Farrington on 1 fault, and James Arkins and Eurostar with 4 and 67.80 will go into 9th position on our ranking after 22 of 39 have jumped. So back into the game there with James Arkin, our first since the midway here in the Lugano Diamonds class. Rowan Willis, Rowan for Australia, and Wellington Grey Goose. Rowan, who comes back to us here at Fort Worth. Rider spent a long time with us in Europe, based out of the UK. And then been based here in North America since 2018, so it's getting on now, 4 years. Rowan's been based here. Came initially really to be part of the team structure building up towards the Tryon World Equestrian Games. Based himself in Ocala, Florida, near his good mate and teammate Scott Keach, and has just really settled in over here so well. This is far from going the way you'd expect for Rowan, with both parts of the October Hill down, but an incredibly consistent rider in Grand Prix up at Spruce Meadows in Canada. He actually burst onto the scene with a 5-star Nations Cup Grand Prix win in Ocala, Florida, and he's just going to bypass here the triple combination. So having had the couple down, Rowan and Wellington Grey Goose are going to put the hand up and retire here on course tonight in the welcome. And Rowan now will just have a think about, again, for a start, what he's going to do at Grey Goose for the next time he wants to jump the mare, but also then which of his 2 horses, Wellington Grey Goose, or in fact he also has Blue Movie with him here, he will choose as his horse for World Cup on Saturday night. Well, this is one they've been looking forward to seeing ever since the entry list was published. McLean Ward, and then the icing on the cake is the fact that he comes here as the freshly minted Geneva Grand Prix winner. An incredible competition that he won with his World Cup champion, HHSU. McLean and Annie, as she's known, were the winners in Omaha of the World Cup back in 2017. And McLean now, he has been busy on the World Cup and he hasn't just had luck on his side. Now, again, you know, does Geneva put him in the frame where he just feels he can't lose? And does he pick up 20 points here tonight and get very much right back into the game to make his way to Omaha to try and take a second World Cup title? He is just single-handed here with Callas. And the situation he is in is if Callas, you know, I think jumping pretty well, notwithstanding the fault up there at the October Hill, he needs to complete this round of jumping so that he can compete on Saturday night in the World Cup. He must qualify this horse by completing the first round of a competition in the FEI Tour, and he didn't ride in last night's two-phase. So again, that just makes the tactics and the riding a little bit different from McLean once he has that rail. And of course, he wants the horse to jump as well as possible, but no surprise to see him there. Just take his foot off the gas a little bit and accept a couple of time faults. So with 75, 1-1 on the clock, McLean will have 4 and 4, 4 for jumping and 4 for time. So not quite the dream round that we were hoping for the Geneva champion, the US Olympian McLean Ward here tonight with Callas, but at the very basic level, it's job done. He is eligible to come forward on Saturday night for World Cup. And really, the major outcome for this weekend is as many World Cup points as possible. It's Summerhill, who's from Lexington, Kentucky, the home of the Split Rock Jumping Tour. Summer jumped World Cup at home in Lexington at the National Horse Show the end of October. Summer with La Belle SCF. So that SCF suffix is from Spy Coast Farm. Of course, the partners with Irish Championship rider Shane Sweetnam. Starting to really see their Spy Coast breds coming through to the top of the sport. Shane had a very good one at Dublin and some of the other major shows a season or two ago. And then when you start to, as I'm lucky enough to do, see a good bit of the 2- and 3-star jumping across the United States, you see the ones that have come from that Spy Coast program with the suffix jumping well again and again. You know, Summer is still in the under-25 level of the sport, jumped through the under-25 series at Wellington this spring, the Winter Equestrian Festival. Very consistent with us in the Split Rock and the International Grand Prix Series. And, you know, one down in this company is nothing to be sniffed at. Summerhill and La Belle SCF with one down, 4 faults, 69.57. Will sit inside the top 10 at the moment. So 5 clears leading the way. Kent Farrington is 6th with a single time fault. And then it's 4 faults all the way down to 11th as things currently are. So Misty Cassar already jumped this year at Sacramento and Vegas, trying to make it back to the World Cup finals. Misty rode for the US at the World Cup finals in Leipzig and just could have been in trouble, because actually if she'd left the ring there, she would have incurred elimination for herself. And that, you know, it hasn't been that extreme for anyone else, but that is just the difficulty of where Anderson has set that first fence. And, you know, Misty has to get that out of her mind. Let this horse, My Lord Cornet, settle down. Get on with business here. Get focused back in on the job of jumping these fences. Oh! Again, reaping the benefit of the fact that under international rules it has to be a closed ring. There has to be a tape there. rails as well, but of course going to be awarded 4 faults for the circle at the in-gate on the way to number 5, just flicking around. We'll have a couple of time penalties as well with a little bit of time wasted. So Misty, there, you know, again, just jumping that last, you had to be so conscious that the horse wouldn't drop out through the left shoulder and go for that in-gate again. Such fascinating creatures, horses. You never quite know what they're going to do next. And again, you know, Misty is just going to, for a start, make a very conscious decision of whether she wants to try and come in here and jump meter 60 onto the added pressure in the World Cup on Saturday night. But also, you know, how she can make this horse comfortable about staying in the ring, concentrating on the job, not thinking about going back and joining their mates out in warm-up. Misty, I know we have Chris Sorensen there. I'm just keeping a weather eye on her. She's actually done a really nice job of just letting the horse walk around, you know, a quarter of the edge of this ring very, very quietly on a loose rein. You know, nice horsemanship there from Misty, just thinking about the future for that horse. So yes, Chris Sorensen takes our focus. Chris with High Branches Group's Chinox. So long with us in Europe, Chris. She was a usefully placed rider to represent Canada at the Nations Cup finals in Barcelona back in 2021. A native of Caledon, Ontario, is actually back now jumping in North America just since October. He's been a World Cup finalist before, rode at the World Cup finals at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas back in 2015. Yeah, this horse isn't necessarily jumping with the all-conquering swagger of some of our other clear rounds, but by the same token, it's getting the job done. Huge, huge drift off the line there over that wide oxer. Any wider and they might have been in big trouble, but they keep going. And they're going to be inside the time. It's another one for Canada. Chris Sorensen. Handsome is as handsome does, we might say. We talked a little bit earlier on about how some of the riders here might be more familiar with the hunter side of the fence than the jumper side of the fence. Here it's about getting over the fences, leaving them standing, and Chris Sorensen does exactly that. He is clear round number 6 of our class, the first since the drag break, and Chinox and Chris will be back eligible for the jump off. Now, what sometimes happens in the welcome, particularly if there are, you know, 12 or 15 clear rounds, a lot of riders might say, okay, my horse has done enough. He's jumped that big initial round. I don't really want to go all out tonight to try and take this. I want to keep my powder dry. I want to keep the gas. I'm planning my whole week's program around the World Cup, and I know now I can potentially get myself into the jump off, and then I can spend my currency. I can spend the energy I've saved tonight on that jump off on Saturday night. So you sometimes see in the welcome a couple of riders say, yep, great, my horse has jumped well. That's enough for me today. I won't come and present in the jump off. Rodrigo Pessoa and Quickstep. We saw this horse not long partnered with Rodrigo. They jumped together at the National Horse Show this year. 3-time World Cup champion, Olympic champion, world champion of our sport, Rodrigo. Again, he won't unfortunately be joining our jump off, having had the second down, the Vitalize. It won't have bypassed any of these riders, how tough that first line was. You see them, they come in, they'll walk the whole track, get that general impression. They'll have had in their mind from their experience where they want to go back and analyze further, which lines, which distances they want to re-walk, which ones they want to try and find, you know, a mentor, a colleague that they really trust, and just talk about the plan, talk about what they're thinking, make sure it matches up, makes sense. And 1 to 2 was a line that we saw riders go back and walk quite a couple of times. This will go into time, 72.88, so it'll be 4 jumping and 1 time there for Rodrigo and Quickstep. A total of 5, the same as the Iraqi rider who went early on in the course, Al-Wali Dawood, in terms of time. in terms of faults, but Al-Walid slower, so he will rank behind Rodrigo on our current leaderboard here in the Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. Well, next to go, World Championship rider this year for the USA. Had some very good results in Europe with this horse. Podium in the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix of Paris. Podium in the 5-star Grand Prix at Tops International at Valkenswaard in the Netherlands. As former Danny Voldman ride Queensland. Lily comes here off the back of victory in the Las Vegas leg of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Series. So she's got 20 points under her belt, all from a single run. And that's how quickly things can change in this just 7-leg North American League. There's really valuable places on offer. And of course, the way the league is set up, ring-fenced for US, Canadian, and Mexican riders, with then the extra athletes, the likes of, if it came to it, Germany's Christian Heineken, Ireland's Daniel Coyle, needing to be within that qualification zone. But the US riders, you know, it could slip out of their grasp so quickly with so few chances to pick up points. It's a very dynamic, very quick season in that regard. So the US rider, several riders at the very tip-top of the sport to be a graduate from the winner's circle of that Maclay equitation final. Lily Keenan and Queensland are clear. They are our latest through to the jump-off. That's going to make it 7. So a second turn of the handle now for Luis Sabino Gonçalves. This is Victor Croisy. Victor Croisy for Luis. Top 10 finishes together at Las Vegas on the World Cup this season, picking up a few points already. And he again will be a rider domiciled, as we would say, in the North American League. So he's looking for points to try and go through as an extra athlete here from North America. Lewis just starting, I think, his 3rd full year of residency here in the United States. Say an incredibly successful athlete back home. Really late falling pole up there at number 2, just with the back rail. He's 4 times the winner of the Nations Cup Grand Prix in Lisbon, Portugal, and even with, you know, his string based here, he made, I think, a Herculean effort to make it back over, ride in the show once again this year in Lisbon. It's a beautiful showgrounds at Lisbon. And now part of the Longines EEF Nations Cup Series, helping developing Nations Cup team nations, and also for top tier nations to put out development squads and give a lot of people that experience of riding at those top shows, riding under the tough conditions, the high standards, and then with the added challenge and consideration of riding for your nation, riding as part of a team, riding as a part of a 4-man unit to try and deliver the best possible result. They're always fascinating classes, but over the course of the winter, we concentrate on the individual honors in the World Cup circuit, and Luis Sabino Gonçalves won't be taking top honors here today. It is 8 for him across the first round of jumping. So Victor Croisy and Luis Sabino Gonçalves on 8 there for Portugal. So looking to see whether we can make it 8 in the jump-off. 7 currently qualified. 2 for Canada. And a rider who could very easily make it 3, Vanessa Mannix. Rider in the World Cup here 12 months ago in Fort Worth. And already good points picked up at Sacramento and Las Vegas. For the rider who spent a long time coaching and mentored by Connor Swale, last year's winner of the World Cup. Connor, who's now ranked inside the world's top 10, a very busy rider. His string and managing the invitations you get when you're so high up the rankings. It's a shame not to have him with us here in Fort Worth, but you know, again, each of these riders have had to make tough decisions in their career for the benefit of their horses to make sure that, you know, they're not overriding, overshowing the horses. They're not like cars. They have a finite amount of energy, and the management of the horse's athletic career is such an important part of the rider's job, and one that they take very, very seriously. So just moments ago, the USA got 3 on the board. Canada looking to fight back straight away and say, we're going to have 3 in this jump off as well. Vanessa Mannix and Kingston are clear. 68.05 on the clock for Vanessa and Kingston. That makes it 8 qualified for the jump off at this stage. And not too many left to go here in the first round of the Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. A real prelude class. I mean, if this shapes up in terms of the sport we're seeing already, if this shapes up similar to what we're going to enjoy here on Saturday night for the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier, we're going to have another Fort Worth Christmas cracker on our hands. Grand Prix contender at the Longines Global Champions Tour leg in Mexico City this spring. Arturo Parado Vallejo comes back to us, this time riding Pandora. Arturo and Pandora were runners-up in the 5-Star Nations Cup Grand Prix at Jalapa in Mexico this year as well. Leaving a toe here and there on these rails, but they have been staying up for him thus far, unfortunately, as I say it. The October Hill Farm is down on the 4. Arturo Parado Vallejo. First in a long while to go out around this last. He's taking the pressure off himself and Pandora to be inside that time, more concentrating on getting, again, the quality back into the jump. Notwithstanding, he's still very fast. 66.18 for Arturo Parado Vallejo and Pandora. Interesting to see him so fast going out around, so keep that in mind if he makes it through to the jump off here on Saturday night. Arturo Parado, as I was just reminded, I was talking about earlier on, rode 3 in the 2-phase last night. All 3 were very, very fast. Only one of them, though, double clear. That was Bakut, and that was the horse that ended up top 5 for him. But he had some very, very fast times. A time, if memory serves, that would have been good enough for second place had it been clear on one of his rides. So Arturo Parado Vallejo, one to watch against the clock here with us in Fort Worth. Second ride for Caitlin Campbell. 5-star rider this year on the Major League Series at the Nations Cup show up in Canada and at the Winter Equestrian Festival in Wellington at the beginning of the season. A couple of times that Longines fence went early in the class. It's been a while since we've seen it down, though. Suddenly a little bit of a hex on the front rails of Oxers. And as I say, and start to try and isolate that maybe we're doing front rails of Oxers, we have a vertical down as well. So suddenly 12 faults for Caitlin Campbell. And Armentos by Armitage. So bringing home the Para for 4 down, 16 jumping faults, and that's where they'll stay inside the time. Caitlin Campbell and Armentos with 16 jumping faults in the initial round here tonight in Fort Worth. So still 8 coming back to us for the jump off. So just 5 remaining as we go on to Natalie Dean once again. Natalie, we were mentioning earlier on, currently 4th on the North American League of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Series. Rides Nespresso here, this 9-year-old by Cicero. Natalie, who's pretty much moved her competition base to the East Coast now, to Florida, but rode for a long time out of Palo Alto, California, in Silicon Valley area near San Francisco. This is turning into a little bit of a cricket score here as the fences tumble for Natalie. There's still quite a lot of jumping to go around this track. And again, the management, understanding the psychology of your horse is different for every rider, every horse-rider combination. You might say, you know, with 3 down in quick succession, is it worth Natalie's while carrying on? And you know, she knows this horse much better than any of the rest of us possibly could. So obviously for her, she feels that, you know, Nespresso will benefit from just being asked to carry on in this round, finish the jumping. And it could also be, you know, like we were saying for McLean, if Nespresso, and I apologize if this is not the case, but you know, if for whatever reason they hadn't completed both phases of the 2 phase last night, they do need to get through the finish beam here today, complete this first round in order for Natalie to have the choice of this horse for World Cup. So that could be a scenario that's playing out as well. So seeing whether she can make it a 4th in the jump off for Canada, a 9th in the jump off overall, and a 2nd in her own right. Erin Ballard is back with us, this time with Gahir. Gahir was the horse with which she took 3rd in the 2 phase yesterday, and Erin had a really quality round of jumping across the 2 phases. Incredibly smooth, it was deceptively fast, and as I pour on the plaudits, unfortunately the rail comes off the Vitalize. So Erin is just going to have 1 in the jump off. It will be yesterday's winner, Narcotique. Such a shame about the early rail, because again, Gahir just looks such quality in the ring, really focused in on the job, quality jumping. Erin gets focused in on the last. 69.34 with the 4 faults there for Erin and Gahir. So that is good enough for 14th position, remember, with our 8 clear rounds holding the best spots. We will divide them as a result of a jump off, and just behind those 8 then you've got Ken Farrington sitting 9th with his single time fault, and then it is back to our fastest 4 faulter. And remember, in a competition where time was so influential early on, you know, our fastest 4 faulter, Eilish Canif, the Young Nations Cup hero for the United States of America with Vivaldi de Thiel. Eilish, 65.90, very nearly, well, it was 6.1 seconds inside the time. Very, very comfortable indeed. So another one for Texas now in Colleen Acosta. Colleen and Lancôme were on our start list last year for the World Cup as well. Colleen, at the major show center down in Houston, Texas, at the Pin Oak Charity Horse Show across the 3 weeks in spring of this year with this horse in the Jumper Tour, also then jumping other horses through the Hunter Tour and the National Derby Series at the Pin Oak Charity Horse Show. 3 weeks as it was for many years, and actually going to step up to 4 weeks, no less, of jumping down there, hunters and jumping in the Great Southwest Equestrian Center just outside Houston next spring. October Hill, tough. The October Hill was influential last night as well. Again, you start to then try and figure out why, and is it the fact that, you know, you take the green and white? Other than that, it's one of the whitest, maybe brightest fences out there. Sometimes the colors can be incredibly influential. The Lugano Diamonds is that sort of matte Cambridge blue, O'Donnell, duck egg blue sort of color. Often that, with its matte and solid color, jumps quite tough for riders. But Colina Costa and Lancôme there, actually just the one down, and that's not bad in this company. 71, 72, 17th. Remember, the best 4-faulter is in 10th place, so there's quite a few who've come home with just that single rail down. Such was the case last night in the 2 phase as well. Behind our 8 or 9 as it was double clears, there were a lot of riders then who just had a single unlucky rail across the 2 phases of jumping. Second ride now for Aaron Vale. This time he has the 10-year-old Prescott in the ownership of Aaron's own Thinks Like a Horse group. Mentioning earlier on how Aaron's got his name twice on the President's Cup for winning the Washington leg of the World Cup Series in the nation's capital. He's also at that horse show won the Puissance no less than 5 times. He probably most recently split it a couple of seasons ago with McLean Ward. Aaron was on the podium with us in one of our Split Rock Grand Prix in the Kentucky Horse Park in October. He was also top 10 in a 5-star Grand Prix at Saugerties in September, that same Grand Prix that was won by Hunter Holloway and Pepita Conspita. Aaron Vale, Prescott. Aaron is going to have 2 in the jump off. Yes, he is. 69.46. He's the first to achieve it, and he will actually be the only rider who can. 9 in the jump off. Aaron Vale and Prescott are qualified. Aaron with 5th to go, Elusive, and now 9th to go, Prescott, for tonight's Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. All to be decided over a shortened course. And we are just 1 away from setting up for that short course finale to tonight's feature class. Have we perhaps saved the best to last? This young man started his career out of Flower Mound, Texas, riding for Mike McCormick and Tracy Fenney here in Texas. He was very much on everyone's radar, especially through the equitation circuit. He was the reserve Maclay champion a couple of years ago, and in the very moment, perhaps, you could say that he turned 18 and was eligible to ride in a World Cup qualifier. His first opportunity to ride in one was at Live Oak in Ocala, Florida, and he won it the very first time he rode in the class. He took victory. He's then subsequently also been the winner of the National Horse Show leg of the World Cup Series. But he won't join our jump off tonight. What a shame. Brian Mogo. Brian, who has been one of the U25 riders on the Global Champions League Series this year, and represented the United States at the World Championships. You know, and it's almost like yesterday that he was riding at the Nations Cup finals, but the Youth Nations Cup finals for the USA, and then moments later season or so later in the real big leagues at the Herning 2022 FEI Jumping World Championships. Brian, an MTM Vive Le Rêve has been a cracking horse for him, Vive Le Rêve as well. Some great results together. They really know each other inside and out. It is going to be 4 faults, unfortunately, for them at the green and white, just going up the ring away from the in-gate. But so the 4 faults will slot them onto our leaderboard based on their time with 69.53. It will go into 16th place. So just watching back there, we see Brian heading down the chute where 9 competitors, 9 horses, 8 riders will be getting ready for the shortened course, the jump off to come. Let's remind ourselves of those 9 and the rest of the results. Of course, our top 10, all filled by riders who jumped clear around the course with our 9 jump off contenders. This first was Luis Francisco de Azevedo, then Aaron Ballard. Aaron, who came so close to having 2 in the jump off behind Lewis and Aaron. Then the qualifier next was Natalie Dean, the first of the USA. Then Nick Pizarro. Aaron Vale made it 2 for the USA. Chris Sorensen evened the account for Canada, making it 2 for Canada. Chris was the first to qualify after the drag break, clear in 69.51. A little bit of analysis, a little bit of thought has been done on the first round time. Does it translate to the jump off? It actually doesn't necessarily tell you that much. Lily Keenan, Vanessa Mannix, Aaron Vale, there are jump off contenders. Ken Farrington, as I said, is going to be top 10 with his single time fault, and then our best 4 faulter remained Ailish Cunniff. 4 faulters then will take you all the way down to, I think it's 19th. Yep, with Colleen Acosta and Lancôme. Then we have the 4 faults and a time fault for Rodrigo Pessoa, the 5 time faults for Ali Walid Daoud, 6 for Simona Berg, and then the 8 faulters. 28 of 39 covered by just 2 down. Natalie and Nespresso, Savannah Hemby, Mark Watering, who was our very first in the ring with the 12 faults. And what's been first, we're going to see these bigger scores come in now. But again, you know, these riders, they'll go away, they'll concentrate, they'll think very carefully about how their horses jumped and enjoyed it in here tonight, and think about what they can do to try and make that better for their horse, to try and get the better result going forward. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes, a lot of just working in concert, working to just unlock the mind. It's very much a mind game, as I said, you know, working with these horses for what they can do to try and come back stronger, better in the World Cup on Saturday night. But we know our starting field, 9 coming back for the jump off, and that is going to be in just a little bit under 13 minutes. So don't go too far away. We will have the finale to tonight's Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome from the Split Rock Jumping Tour Fort Worth International coming up for you.
We are so lucky to get to talk to the 26th show jumper in the world right now, Daniel Coyle, who rides for Ireland. And before we head into the jump off, I've got a couple questions for you as a professional. So when you're riding in a jump off and you are looking at the course, what is the type of fence that really, I don't want to say scares you, but the one you know to look out for?
Generally, it's a vertical because in the jump off, it's all about going so fast. So verticals tend to be a little more delicate. So yeah, the verticals is the ones you want to clear in the jump off.
Noted. Okay. So when you're at the end gate, and I know it's an advantage to go later in the jump off usually because you can see how the course rides, but let's talk nerves. Now you're a pro. It's probably been a while since you felt a thing called nerves, but how are you feeling when you are waiting and waiting and waiting on your turn? Do you get more nervous?
Nerves should be a good thing, I think. If you're not nervous, you ain't trying hard enough, and the biggest part of nerves usually comes after, especially if you do well. You have to watch everybody else try and beat you, so that's the most nerve-wracking for me.
But then you can drink a beer while you wait on them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He is Irish. Thank you so much, Daniel, for taking a minute with us.
No problem.
So welcome back to Fort Worth. We are moments away from the start of our jump off, a 9-strong jump off. We'll wait and hear whether anyone is maybe just going to keep their powder dry for World Cup come Saturday night here in Fort Worth in Texas. Anderson Lehman, the level 3 designer who designed with us here last year for the World Cup in Fort Worth, sets a 7 obstacle, 8 effort track with a 45-second time allowed. It's going to use some of the toughest bits and pieces of the track. He's going to start them going away from the in-gate. We'll jump the Longines to Lugano line as it now is. So what was 3 to 4, we jump those backwards. We've taken the water tray out from underneath the Longines. We go up to the Lugano. It's 1.50 m there at the top of the ring, jumping now towards the dark end up at the VIP. Then we cut around to number 7. Number 7 was the ESI footing. We've put a pole on the top there. It was the fence with the plank on it. Down on what was a 7-stride distance to the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup fence. Taking that inside line around to the split rock triple that we saw again. We discussed it as being quite like a jump-off turn. 9A, 9B, 10, then over in the corner of the ring, and then a long, all-out charge to number 12, the last on course. So we saw 7 horse and rider combinations before we got our first clear round in the $75,000 Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome. It was Luis Francisco de Azevedo who got his name on the board for Brazil with Santa Cecilia Stables HFG Quaman, the just 9-year-old Grand Prix horse by the wonderful and late lamented sire Diamant de Semilly. So Luis comes, jumps the first time up this line, jumping them in the opposite direction. We give them new numbers, 14 and 15, they're now called. Around to here, as we say, the pole replaces the plank, but it, like the Lugano, is at 1.50 m. Sneaks here, they really need to be trying to make that as tight as possible, really coming across the face of the Longines jump, and the split rock goes down, and that's all about the way you ride the turn, the spot you end up coming out of that turn on. Just coming apart a little bit at the seams now for Luis Francisco de Azevedo with 2 down on the jump-off ride, and takes a little bit of a peek at the last moment at the last as well. So Luis has 2 down, 8 faults. I think a relatively competitive time, 36.79. We'll keep an eye on that. But no matter how fast, will be overtaken by any double clears we get from amongst our remaining starting draw. And surely we've got a couple of those on our horizon with the quality we have here with us in Fort Worth, and none less so than last night's winning combination here at the start of the FEI Tour with Narcotique, Aaron Ballard, championship rider for Canada. Erin just puts a little bit of a bend there, but what it means then is she's jumping across the Lugano, landing strongly on the horse's front right shoulder and really helping her go around that turn back to the ESI. As it turns out, she gets there and has that rail down, so now she's in a little bit of a battle with, especially now with the second rail down on 8 faults with Luis Francisco, but it is, you know, only a battle for no better than second place honours when we get our first double clear. A great challenge for Erin, and Narcotique 35 on the clock. She's faster with 8 faults, goes into the lead at the moment. There's no longer that equality of faults. It is divided by time here in this jump off. See, between those two replays, you will have spotted when you were watching live that Erin went around the Christmas tree decoration, what we call an island, at the top of the course. We'll see whether anyone is brave enough to sneak inside on their way back to number 10. First of the riders to qualify for the United States of America, Natalie Dean. Natalie, who was on the US Nations Cup team at the Winter Equestrian Festival this spring. Marked herself out as one of the leading riders of the winter season with a 3rd place finish with Chance Saint-Emel at the Sacramento leg of the World Cup Series. It's another 9-year-old, the same as Quaman for Luis Francisco. This is the Toulon 9-year-old mare Ecotta. Yeah, very comfortably inside the Christmas tree there. But of course, she's playing a different game to Aaron Ballard moments ago, because she could be bringing home our first double clear. Really just holds and balances. So she's left a little bit of the door open, 35.78. Natalie Dean is the first double clear. She is the one to beat, but having sat up and balanced on the way to the last rather than just throwing everything at the wall, which is probably what it's going to take to go in front of her, Natalie has maybe just left the door open for somebody to overtake her, but she's the one to beat at the moment. Double clear, the first double clear of the Lugano Diamonds. Welcome. Mexican Olympian Nicolas Pizarro. Nicolas achieved that ultimate aim of any sportsman at the London 2012 Games, representing Mexico then. 35.78 to beat if he can leave everything standing here on course. I say Natalie was prompt enough everywhere, as I say. I think the only place she left the door open was just feeling that she had to sit up and make sure of the last rather than just flying at it and taking a risk. Let's see what Nick Pizarro does. 35.78 to beat. It is close, but it's going to be just behind. 36.28, exactly half a second. 0.5 behind for Nicolas Pizarro with our second double clear, but Natalie Dean is still in the driving seat of this Lugano Diamonds FEI welcome for the United States of America. Well, already a good night. The only rider to qualify 2 through to the jump off, Aaron Vale. Aaron, who had a good result in an international speed with this horse elusive at the National Horse Show World Cup leg won a speed class with us at Aiken in South Carolina on the Split Rock Jumping Tour, and has had Grand Prix podium, Grand Prix top 10, time in, time out on the Split Rock Jumping Tour this year. Aaron is apparently ranked just outside the world's top 100. Thanks to that incredible consistency, ticking up the results at the 2- and 3-star level of the sport. Of course, as the prize money and the star level increases, the amount of World Cup points on offer for the same result increases as well. You just see all that years of experience in the sport, but particularly the speed riding experience, the way he dealt with that turn back from 8 to 9, the World Cup to the Split Rock. 35 to beat, surely he's got this in spades to go into the lead. 35.43, it was not as much as maybe it looked, but he is a third of a second faster, and any fraction of a second faster is enough. Aaron Vale and Elusive are the ones to beat, and Aaron is one of the contenders to come. So there are actually only 3 riders who can go in front of him. Aaron Vale and Elusive double clear at the moment. They can finish no lower than 4th, but really they're the ones to beat. A third of a second faster than Natalie Dean. 35.43 now is the target in this Lugano Diamonds. Well, after our midway, our first clear after that midway ground preparation break came from Chris Sorensen, Nations Cup finalist for Canada. Chris with Chinox. Can he get the Maple Leaf back out in front? Well, he's certainly having a go. Look at the way he hunts down that line. Let's say, Chris might not thank me for saying that, it wasn't the most elegant of clear rounds, but, handsome is as handsome does. Getting the job done, leaving everything standing, and putting himself in good stead for the big class on Saturday night as well. Let's see what we've got here. We've got 6 seconds remaining and a long way to go, so I don't think he's going to quite overtake Aaron Vale. Well, yeah, he does. 35.33, it is absolutely marginal. 0.1, Chris Sorensen and Chinox. Chris defies me again. So from a third of a second that Aaron went faster than Natalie D, now it's 0.1 of a second that Chris goes faster than Aaron Vale. US Nations Cup rider, US Championship rider, particularly this year at the Worlds, Lily Keenan. Lily with the horse she's partnered up with in recent seasons, Queensland E, very, very successfully as well when you look at their 5-star Grand Prix results record together over the course of this summer. The 7th of 9 to see. Our leader in the clubhouse has to watch and see. There's definitely more on the table for this pair. Lily, I think, was just quite ginger about the way she turned back to the ESI footing up at the top. She's incredibly tight going to 9AB, though, the way she rides that. This is, again, easily be proven wrong because I thought she was a little bit steady early on in the round, but now she's having a real crack at this and she's got a lot to go. Queensland, I thought she was just a shade off the last there. You can see her making the adjustment, and look at this, just showing the absolute class of this pair. Nearly a full second faster. Lily Keenan and Queensland E now are the ones to beat. That is an incredibly fast round to take the pendulum back over to the US side. This has been a class. Canada out in front, USA in front, Canada out in front, now USA out in front. Lily's about to displace Chris Sorensen in front of the digital podium as leader in the clubhouse with just 2 to go here in the Lugano Diamonds welcome jump off.
The lady who was third down in Mexico. The time to beat is
Plenty of good results in World Cup action over the course of recent seasons. Runner-up to her mentor Connoisseur at T-Bird in last winter's season. Vanessa Mannix, Vanessa and Kingston. Another 9-year-old. Some prodigious talents of 9-year-olds can be out there winning at the very, very top 5-star level of the sport. But this is where 9-year-old horses can really make their bones at the 4-star level and really prove that they're ones to watch for the future. So this shouldn't be a massive disadvantage to be competitive on a well-schooled, well-prepared 9-year-old horse, even against the likes of Queensland and Lily. Another great line from Vanessa there, going up to the Split Rock AB. Incredible margin set by Lily though, 34.43, nearly full second faster than Chris Sorensen. And she's only just slower, 2.24, it's not bad at all, 36.67. We have got a great field of horses and riders set up here for Saturday night. They're giving us a great class here tonight. Vanessa Mannix and Kingston go into 6th. Consistency is coming through as the majority of our jump-off contenders are not only jumping the clear to get them into the jump-off, but then delivering the double clear. Lily Keenan there, still our leader. 34.43. She only has one round of jumping to watch. Aaron Vale there, who you see on the digital board, sits 3rd. Chris Sorensen sits 2nd. Aaron Vale is the only rider who needs to come back to us. Of course, he has to have gotten off his first horse, Elusive, that sits 3rd at the moment. Hop up onto Prescott, get that horse warmed up, just give whatever the practice jumps procedure he has in mind is, and come down. Of course, we love to keep the class going, but there'll be no undue pressure on him. You know, we want to keep it as fair as possible, that he has a decent amount of time to warm up, to come forward and challenge Lily Keenan's time. And, you know, it's a great challenge. Aaron Vale has proven that he's fast. He proves it week in, week out here in North America. See those double clears there for Nick Pizarro and Vanessa Mannix, 5th and 6th. And 7th and 8th so far. Aaron Ballard's Narcotique and Luis Francisco's HFG Quaman. Here he is. So his experience coming to bear and how quickly he's able to produce a horse for this jump-off. A real professional of the sport, Aaron Vale, and the 10-year-old Prescott. 34.43 is the line in the sand.
So it comes down to this. We're guaranteed a US victory in tonight's big class. Lily Keenan versus Aaron Vale. Powers out of the turn past the in-gate. Explodes up this first line. Again, you know, in match play, the 13-year-old fairly experienced 5-star Grand Prix horse Queensland versus the very good National Grand Prix and fledgling international horse, the 10-year-old Prescott. 9, 8, 7 seconds as he jumps over this. The crowd get behind him, Aaron Vale and Prescott coming home. He's got a great shot at this. Look at that. 3/4 of a second faster yet. You have to think that Lily Keenan was almost unbeatable, having been nearly a full second faster than anyone else in the field. And here Aaron Vale makes the difference. He is 3/4 of a second faster. He now joins that concept we were talking. Let's remind ourselves of our results here tonight. Aaron Vale and Elusive in fourth, Natalie Dean fifth, Nick Bizarro, Pia Contra sixth. 7 of the 9 in the jump-off jump double clear, just showing the quality of the field we have here, how they measure up against the 4-star track set by Anderson Lima, that will go up 10 centimetres and increase yet more in difficulty to be that true Grand Prix of the week, the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier here on Saturday night. But here he is, Aaron Vale and Prescott, the double clear, faster than anyone else, winner of the Lugano Diamonds FEI Welcome here in Fort Worth. We'll throw it out to the booth now with Eamon McGann for the formal awards to come. But here's an immediate victory gallop from a man who richly deserves the applause here of the Will Rogers Coliseum. It is Aaron Vale, qualified 2-3 to the jump-off and 3/4 of a second faster than the hugely experienced Lily Keenan and Queensland E to wrap up our night here in Fort Worth. As I say, got lots more for you during the week. We live stream every class here from Fort Worth. Our feature class tomorrow on the show's live stream is the 2-rounder, the national winning round format. Saturday night, of course, you can tune into FEI TV and watch that Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier. And we have the Jarvis Insurance National 3 as our feature class for you on Sunday. Stay tuned to all the action this weekend from the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier at the Split Rock Jumping Tour Fort Worth International. As I say, stay with us for awards. But for me, bye-bye for tonight. We welcome in the top 8 in reverse order for the Lugano Diamonds, 1.50 m. Please welcome them all back in, as always, in reverse order from 8.
Diamonds, thank you Lugano Diamonds for being on board for the 2022 Split Rock Jumping Tour. The top 8 are making their way in. It's reverse in reverse order, taking third. To the podium, Chris Donaldson, Shinox in third. Taking second place, Lily Keenan for the USA, Queensland E. And the man, originally from Texas himself, well done, Aaron Vale, Prescott. If I can ask you now, please, to be upstanding and rise, if able, for the national anthem of the winning nation, the United States of America. Please give it up for the winner of the Lugano Diamonds 1.50m, Aaron Vale, Prescott. Well done, Lily Keenan. Well done, Chris Odinson, as they now head back towards their rides. Thank you to Melissa Brandes and Jack Sarp from the team from Lugano Diamonds for making the presentation and supporting and sponsoring this wonderful split rock jumping tour. A tour that takes these riders from the east to the west coast of North America, and without the support of Lugano Diamonds, simply would not be possible. Up they pop. We're getting set for the victory gallop. It's the most important conclusion of the evening's events. Just hang fire till we're all on board, and we're almost there. And we're away. Come on, away we go. Aaron Vale for the USA, Prescott. Right, Aaron, we want a fist pump. We want a big fist pump. Come on. One more time. Aaron Vale, Prescott. Well done to Aaron. We're going to bring him back in. Stay with us for a second, because we're going to hear the inside story to how he took the victory in the Lugano Diamonds 1.50m here tonight on the second night of the Split Rock Jumping Tours Fort Worth International Horse Show in our second FEI class. And that winner's interview is coming right up from Malone Ranger from 95.9 Country FM here in Texas. Aaron's heading back towards the podium one more time. Let's have that inside story then from Malone and from Aaron. Over to you.
So lucky to be here with tonight's champion, Aaron Vale of Florida, the United States of America. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you just did the victory gallop, and you just heard our national anthem played, and you know that's because of what you did. How proud does that make you feel?
It's always fun to win a class at an international show where they play the anthem. For a long time, I won a class. It was really late at night. They didn't play it. They accidentally counted the points wrong in a class, and they gave the award to someone else. And then I was awarded the win the next day. So I had 2 or 3 wins that I should have got the anthem and I didn't. So it's really fun now to get it.
Well, this is not a Miss Columbia situation, I promise you. You really won this thing. Now, was there some point tonight when you knew in the back of your head, if I can just hang on, I think I got this?
Well, I think in the first line, I left a stride out. I did one less stride than everybody else. So I kind of had a little bit of a lead at that point. And then I just had to stay on the pace from there and not make a mistake, which I got a little bit lucky with a rub at the Longines Oxer, but it stayed up and he jumped the rest of them supers.
I don't know that any of this is luck, but I do have a really question for you. How many treats is your horse getting tonight?
Well, I'm a bad person to ask that question. I'm not really into treats. I'm into good grain, good hay, and lots of water.
How many pets is your horse getting?
He's already gotten a bunch.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron, and congratulations on your incredible victory tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malone. Thank you, Aaron. As we get set now for 3 more days here at the Split Rock Jumping Tour for the Fort Worth International. Big congratulations all round. Thanks for being with us. It's a safe home if you're leaving us. We'll see you back here at 8 a.m. tomorrow.